Well, hello, greetings and welcome. It is Tuesday, July 1st of 2025. I am your host, Blake Wally, and welcome to the Eccentric Perspective. I will be here for the next 60 to 90 minutes covering the latest news and current events. And man, do I have one hell of a show lined up for you. This is going to change everything, or not. It depends, but there are plenty of interesting stories going on, including here's the thumbnail for today. Wouldn't call it the headline, but I guess these were the words and topics most fun to play with. And that would be Alligator Alcatraz and the deportation transportations. This is kind of a dilemma. A friend of mine brought this up. The logistics of trying to deport 20 million people or however many illegal aliens are in this country and whether it's doable or not. Perhaps they will have to incentivize some of these with some of these people, facilitate the process. It's certainly going to be a daunting task, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, let's fucking go. Here we go, bro. Welcome to July, ready to kick off. This is the second half of the year now. We are officially at the halfway point. All right, and what else do we have? Well, as you can see, the thumbnail there. Oh, I totally covered up the Fox logo, but it's technically from Fox News. I don't know if this is the compound here. This is the new facility that they are constructing in the Everglades. There's a deterrent and is a punishment for those that have overstayed their welcome, perhaps. I don't know exactly how they're going to prioritize that, but we'll dig into it. Little logo there, and they're going to surround the whole thing with creatures from the swamp there. Florida, not my cup of tea, but whatever. Anyway, we shall see. I'm actually having a mojito there in the corner, enjoying myself in the air conditioning. Not my, probably not the kind of climate I would go to, but hey, to each their own. Florida seems like an interesting place for those of us. All right, anyway, without getting sidetracked, let's look at some of the other topics I have lined up for today. It's time to send Massie and the other grandstanders packing. We'll get into that. The big, beautiful bill apparently has passed. Yeah, and I guess we're back. More infighting with the MAGA community over whether this was a good idea or not. Trump, should he just deport Elon Musk for getting out of line? And Americans, should they form an entirely new political party? That's been speculated as well. Alligator Alcatraz, should it be shut down before it even opens? And do we need more incentive for deportation transportation? And Bob Vylan, does he deserve to have his visa revoked for his recent slurs in concert? And the CDC, should they be forgiven for covering up medical data? That could be a big bombshell, and that might be the reason this show gets taken off. Or they're gonna, YouTube is going to bury this show after it's done, or maybe at some point in the future. You never know. But this could be the flag for medical misinformation, but it's going to have to be covered. It is quite interesting, and I'll try to be very objective about it. How's that? To be fair. All right, and finally, ChatGPT, could it lead us to an epidemic of AI psychosis? Or I should say AI-induced psychosis. This is a new phenomenon. So I definitely want to stay tuned for that, or watch it later in the archive. I don't know, but that should be an interesting new thing we have to deal with as far as humans interacting with AI and the unintended consequences of that relationship, if you will. I don't know. Okay. Not to mention the mongoloids in Florida. The pythons get too big. They release them into the Everglades. Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good place to escape from. I don't know. I guess that would you rather? Would you rather be in the original Alcatraz out there on the Pacific coast, get eaten by sharks, or would you rather escape the alligator in the Everglades and go try to go through the swamp with alligators and crocodiles and pythons and what have you? I don't know. I might have to go with the OG facility, but maybe I'm just glorifying the Rock, the old movie with Nicolas Cage. That was good stuff, but that was a different sort of escape. But anyway, we'll not get sidetracked. Let's jump to. We'll run the intro. We'll be back on the other side. We'll talk about Massie, the grandstanders, the BBB, and then we'll get into all of the other controversial stuff. So see you on the other side at this very quick break. No commercials, just an intro into who I am and what I do and what you're sort of in for. Here we go. Okay, welcome back to the Eccentric Perspective on the first day of July 2025. Let's, quick word. Oh, I had to change things up right before this show. I almost wore my Kids in the Hall shirt. It is, I guess it's Canada Day today. So here we go. So there's a quick shout out to our friends up north. Happy Canada Day. Okay, that's really all I've got to say on that. Big Kids in the Hall fan growing up. Other than that, I don't know. We'll see if this could be the last Canada Day. You never know. They might join the United States at some point. Be forced in one way or the other. It's going to be a hostile takeover. Maybe. Or not. Anyway, we'll see. Actually, I'd like to see if there's a season 2 of the Kids in the Hall, but I digress. Let's move on. Here is the major headline story for the rest of us. That would be the Senate passing President Trump's big, beautiful bill, despite 3 GOP no votes. And VP J.D. Vance is broken the tie as they worked on that all weekend. Or at least hung out, did a few late nights, but you know what? They don't work that hard up there in DC, so can't really feel sorry for him too much. But yeah, let me take a quick pause here as I was looking at the comments. Yeah, with Florida, nightmare fuel. I guess we haven't answered that question there. Sharks in Alcatraz or the pythons and alligators in the Everglades. But let's get focused here. So the bill looks like it is passed officially. 51-50 with the VP breaking the tie. Going to send it back to Congress as they check the 940-page bill. And perhaps this drama will be behind us. I don't know. We got Chuck Schumer also making a motion to strike the name Big Beautiful Bill from the text. The motion was sustained, meaning the bill will no longer be called the One Beautiful Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Mr. President.
The Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I raise a point of order against page 1, lines 3 to 5 of the pending amendment, which violates Section 313B1A of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974.
The point of order is sustained. The text will be stricken.
Okay, there you go, Chucky. Is your big win. Now you got something to talk about on 4th of July next time with your barbecue, putting cheese on your raw hamburgers. Was that July 4th last year? I can't remember. I think it was. Be the 1 year anniversary. But here's a small but very petty win for Chucky Schumer on the floor today. Well done, or not. But now we're going to have the MAGA Civil War. So I'm not sure what the next step here is, but there is going to be a showdown between Massie and Trump, and Elon. It looks like they're going to be warring, and they're going to be using Thomas Massie, and they're going to be funding both sides. This is going to be an interesting showdown, as we'll see at the next congressional race. Yeah, Schumer is the great grill master in that horribly botched photo op, but it was fun for the rest of us to point out that absurdity. I don't think Chucky Schumer has probably cooked a meal for himself in 20 years, but it's all good. Anywho, we'll see if he finally retires, the old dinosaur. But what else can we say? Now we're going to have the proxy war with Thomas Massie. The tug of war over the future of the Republican Party is now Elon Musk and Trump at odds. So Elon Musk is backing Thomas Massie against Trump, and the APAC challenger. That's another aspect of this. Billionaire ex-owner Elon Musk officially backing Thomas Massie to help him defeat whatever swamp creature that Trump and AIPAC recruit to try and oust him from Congress. Because as many people know, Thomas Massie, not a big fan of the big, beautiful bill, to which Trump has just called him a grandstander. And perhaps it's a delay, but you need this kind of healthy discourse in D.C., but I think it's been taken overboard, unfortunately, as I'm kind of caught in the middle. I like all these guys, and I don't want to have to pick sides. As Thomas Massie, maybe he's a little too libertarian, but that's good. We have to have a diversity of opinions, different voices on both sides. So it should be causing a rift in the party, but apparently it is. And the libertarians are being quite vocal. And in fact, we'll look at some of the tweets here as I'll run down some of the stuff. Now, Thomas Massie is, of course, thrilled to find out that Elon Musk will be supporting him, as Donald Trump will be going against him. And it's not. We should all be on the same team here. But unfortunately, Trump has taken this personally and is escalating everything, including with Elon, even floating out deportations, including him. But that could just be they're just chatter. They're just talking shit right now. So Trump eyeing Kentucky Israel caucus, Aaron Reed, to replace Thomas Massie in Congress. I think this is all. I'm throwing this all out there because it seems to be connected. As with this, it's like the final straw for Trump was the BBB grandstanding, as they call it. But there were several issues that deserved to be brought up, and perhaps be brought back to the drawing board, make a few changes. But no, now they've got to pass this huge bill. It can't just be done in pieces. So that's just the new way that they work things in Washington. But Thomas Massie has that right to just to speak his mind and to change a few things. I mean, nobody takes a contract the first time. You've always, they throw out the initial offer, you check it over. And you maybe say, hey, let's, I like this deal, but let's get rid of a few things or maybe add a couple other things. You negotiate back and forth. You don't just throw a 900,000-page bill on somebody's desk and say, you get 48 hours and it's got to pass. You don't get but that's just the way it is now. I would like to see things broken up. I think Massie is a great voice on that front. But not all people are going to see it that way. So now it's going to be more divide and conquer. As, the war of MAGA continues after the ceasefire for, I don't know, maybe a week. I forget when the last time when things got really heated with Iran and the Israel conflict, and who the real MAGA was, and who were the grifters. Well, it's all back. Not quite as heated, but we shall see. And this is going to be a major point of contention. The big Thomas Massie fight. So let's hear. Now they're funding Aaron Reed to replace Massie in Congress. He's a Christian Zionist member who believes Israel is God's chosen nation. Which would be fine if he was talking about biblical Israel. But I think people are changing their mind on this. And yeah, it's literally, one of the things you got to respect about Thomas Massie is he's not taking the foreign money, as in the AIPAC money. He's literally taken zero from it. In fact, exposed many of the Republicans for having an AIPAC guy that guide their opinions on certain issues. And they collect lots of money. And that seems to be a conflict of interest. But now they're putting one of those people in there. Somebody's going to get funded by Israel. So to get rid of their one of their biggest opponents. So here we go. Let's roll a clip.
For me, and I know for millions of Christians and patriots across this country, support for Israel isn't political, it's biblical. Genesis 12:3 says, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you.
Okay, but that's biblical Israel. That was 2,000 years ago, dude. This is a totally different thing now. Much different. So that is not... I think this is going to be a interesting wake-up call for many Christians who or maybe want to question their support. It was a great article in the Federalist today about that very issue, which was surprising to see from them, but wasn't really prepared to go down this road here. But yes, it's just an unusual. We tie this into the BBB, Massie, the infighting, MAGA, the bill, and why this is happening here. This is an unintended consequence of Massie standing against the BBB. Is now we've got this fundamentalist Christian, probably a very nice guy, but perhaps a bit misguided on his interpretation of his support for Israel, and not differentiating the modern day version versus the biblical version. But that's okay. Let's not get sidetracked. Got another article out of the Epic Times, Senate passing the mega bill. But we already know that. Just to confirm. And here is Thomas Massie in a tweet here, thanking Elon for supporting his new fight. And much of this comes from this chart right here, and many of the libertarians who are going to be, the fiscal conservatives who are alarmed by some of the problems from this bill, is that it's going to be spending a ton of money. We are already in a ton of debt. It is raising the debt ceiling once again. We're already 37 in the hole. And I don't know when that's going to stop, because they've never seemed to be able to cap any spending. So this is the way Washington has gone out of control, and this is why Massie is an important voice to bring reason to the uncontrolled spending by Congress that they've been getting away with for far too long. So when are they going to flatten this curve? Very good question. Although there is some good news, as the media has been forced to admit Trump's tariffs are working as revenues spike. So that's interesting. This is going to take some time. And I guess it was probably worth the risk just to see if something would work, do something different. And Trump certainly did, and has taken a lot of heat for it. But apparently, maybe these the experts are going to have to change their mind. We shall see. This was going to take a long time to play out and to see if it would actually be successful. So here we go. Let's roll a quick clip from CNBC on the tariff.
Look how much we've been collecting in revenues. And I did this in part because Wilfred's here and he can talk about the UK trade deal. But just this is the monthly numbers. And they have gone up a lot. June is actually set for another big increase of $27 billion. That is money coming into U.S. coffers from tariffs. We are collecting a lot of revenue. So far, guys, $121 billion has flowed into the U.S. government since the start of the fiscal year. It's still a tiny portion of the overall revenues that the U.S. government gets, but it's increasingly a lot, especially we haven't seen it in terms of the consumer paying off higher inflation.
Okay. Well, so a bit of good news, and that's CNBC, who I wouldn't say is, on Trump's side necessarily. So maybe we got to, point to the trust the plan people. Trump knows what he's doing, and that perhaps this big, beautiful bill will look like a good idea years from now. And I guess at this point, we're already 37 trillion in the hole. Is it worth fighting tooth and nail over every part of it now? Maybe not. I hope there's a happy medium, and that we can stop the infighting altogether. It's not worth it. Not over this. And I don't know. Trump's got the idea that this is going to pass by July 4th or not. I don't know. So now the House has to vote on it once again. Of course, Massie will be in opposition, but I would expect it to go through now. I don't know when the next vote is, but continue to be a hot topic in the news, and we'll see what Massie says about it this time around. So it gives Americans something to chatter about this week as we head into, the 4th of July coming up. Historic. All right, but let's take a look at some of the back and forth, and many people criticizing Trump for this. So we'll see how the infighting goes. Here's Clint Russell, one of the more prominent and outspoken libertarians, saying that Massie is a very bad guy, which I don't like to see either. He's saying Massie is probably the only decent human being in D.C., and he represents America first, unlike Donald J. Netanyahu. So that is that's a pretty damning statement there. And Clint Russell's been, a pretty good voice. One of the ones like libertarians that has warmed up to Trump as being, better than, say, Chase Oliver, being kind of a realistic choice, but being continually, disappointed with some of the moves that this administration is making, whether it's something to do with war or spending or attacking one of their heroes in Massie. It's not a good look, and it could be causing a major rift in the party. I'm not sure if Trump will back off now, as this thing is escalating, because he put this out on Truth Social that anybody he endorses can beat Thomas Massie by 25 points. Get ready. Massie is a very bad guy. And I don't like this at all. It doesn't mean I'm against Trump now or I'm going to be a fake MAGA, but this is over the line. You can disagree with him grandstanding or standing in opposition to your big, beautiful bill, but to say that Thomas Massie's a bad guy and now you're openly going to war with him and you're going to fund his opposition, it's kind of hard to defend. So we'll say I hope there's a way Trump can back off of that, but that's really not something he normally does. Let's take a look on the other side from Sean Farash, who is very pro-Trump, saying, let Elon send Thomas Massie as much money as he wants. Massie currently has a 23% approval rating in his district among likely primary voters. That's really hard to believe. I thought Thomas Massie was extraordinarily popular. So I'm a little bit confused by this, although there are a lot of hardcore MAGA Trump supporters who will go in line with him for just about anything. So I don't know where he's getting this approval rating is. He seems to have a pretty strong support group, and it seems to just be a total waste. And now you're going to have two billionaires playing a tug of war, wasting how much money over one congressional seat in Congress. There are so many bigger fish to fry than Thomas Massie. So not a good look. Just calling it like I see it. So, but Sean Farash saying, I'd rather Musk fund Massie's alleged drinking problem. That's over the line too, and see him start a third party. Although Musk has enough money to try and do both, and that's this is where it's going to get ugly again. So I don't like to see that. I've been really supportive of Sean Farash. I don't think calling out Massie for a drinking problem is a good look. Thomas Massie, the poor guy, lost his wife last year. Sure, he's gone through some tough times. Just because he's being as an obstacle to your bill doesn't mean you got to go torch the guy's life and then have him replaced, voted out. What are we going to do? Just exile him from the United States for daring to stand in opposition? All right, here's another one. Health Ranger, I am with Elon and Massie on this one. Trump is wrong to attack Representative Massie. I agree. Was not necessary in any way. They could have had a friendly discussion about it, televised it, aired out their differences, found a different way. I wish they could go back in time, but that's not how it works. So here's Anomaly saying Trump is a total loser for trying to oust Massie with AIPAC. Anyone pretending otherwise shouldn't be trusted. And so he's going to put in a Zionist Christian fundamentalist who's going to be supported by AIPAC to get rid of one of the very few respected guys who's actually in Congress. Not a good look. Okay. Here's another one from Mary Tally Bowden, MD, saying threatening to deport Elon and calling Massie a very bad guy only wants me to distance myself more from the president. But, there are other people who they're hardcore. They're going to unfollow, they're going to block you, and they're going to cause a rift in the movement. Such a good teammate. It was great for a minute there when it was Elon and Trump, teaming together to save the country. Now having a public feud, and Massie is in danger of losing his House seat, and Elon could be in danger of being deported back to South Africa. Maybe, but I'm sure that's just hollow, I hope. Okay, here's another one from Philip. Here is one from Philip Anderson. It says Donald Trump would have been much smarter to side with Massie and Elon Musk instead of the Republican Congress and Senate, who literally did nothing but absolutely destroy his coalition and piss off Trump supporters. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would prefer if he would stand against the swamp creatures, against the neocons. And instead, he's going after Massie and Elon. So that's not a good. It's not a good day for news in that sense. So whether this can be repaired, there's another person I respect, Dr. Simon Godek, saying disappointed. Massie's one of the few principled voices in Congress, refuses AIPAC money, stands for constitutional values, puts America first without compromise. Trump attacking him is a serious misstep. Team Massie, Elon, Team Integrity. So, but here's Sean Parash trolling him. Saying he blocks people if they ask questions, blah, blah, blah. He has no principles. I don't know. I disagree with that. But let's see. We'll keep moving on. And here's a great point by Clint Russell. I think this is the final part of this, at least on this particular subject. Saying Clint Russell saying the current sales pitch is that we must support the big beautiful bill because that's the only way you'll get border security and deportations. In other words, you have to support a $3.3 trillion bill just so you can get your $160 billion for the border. Yeah, and that's the illustrating the absurdity. Why can't they do these bills piecemeal? They had the same thing with this a year or two ago, doing the same thing, trying to fund the border bill. And most of the money went to Ukraine. It was like, well, why can't you just make a standalone? Get the money for the border patrol, like give them the tools to do the job, shut the border down, force the security. But no, you've got to add another $3 trillion of other spending. So why can't it's insane. This is you got to sympathize with the libertarians because they are a voice of reason, at least on this issue. But unfortunately, we're getting the BBB. Washington, and business as usual. So he says, don't let anyone tell you of the choice between a border and your children's economic future. Both are existential. Trump and the GOP could cut spending and defend the border if they wanted to, but they don't want to. Stand with Massie and Paul. Again, I can't find any fault with that. So, getting back to the headlines, that is the kind of the major headline. We'll get to some of the other bigger stories. That was the one where I had by far the most open tabs, so it'll be all downhill from there. All right, so it's time to send Massie and the grandstanders packing? No, I disagree. There was never a reason to start this war. He's one man. He's a good voice for D.C., a good voice for America, Kentucky, everything else. Now we're going to have a totally pointless war where 2 billionaires are going to waste who knows how many millions in resources to try to fight over this seat. A civil war within MAGA. So, not good. Which will, I guess, lead me to the next story that Trump should just deport Elon Musk for getting out of line. Well, that would make him a king, wouldn't it? Not a king. We got Elon Musk responding to President Trump opening the door to deporting him back to South Africa. So Trump's rage toward Elon over his criticism of the BBB has exploded to the point that he said he might try to kick the world's richest man out of the country. So Trump is so mad at Massie, he's going to try to have him replaced. Now he's threatening Elon. So Musk said that ending subsidies to wind, solar, and electric vehicles would destroy millions of jobs. The latest Senate draft bill will destroy, yes, that's what he said, and cause immense strategic harm to our country. So it's utterly insane and destructive, and it gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future, which I would assume means Tesla. So, during an interview with the Daily Mail, Trump was asked about possibly deporting Musk back to South Africa, even though he legally immigrated here. But in a surprise, Trump did not close the door at all. He says, I don't know, we'll have to take a look. So, that doesn't sound promising. I could play this video, but you're probably not going to hear it. It's one of those tarmac interviews where all you can hear is the helicopter in the background. Okay. So Elon, but apparently is refraining from escalating. He says it's tempting to escalate this, so tempting, but I will refrain for now. So that is a positive here. Yes. Can we work together? Can we resolve our differences? Can we agree to disagree? Can we bring in Massie and Elon and Trump all back at the table again? I don't know. That would be the best thing for everybody. But it seems as though they will perhaps split the party over this. Hello, Maya. How are Maya? How are you? I am doing fabulous. How are you? Action on Kick. Alrighty, let's move on. Here is one here presenting tweet from he was concerned. My connection here. I don't know if I lost my connection, so sorry for the awkward pause. Okay, that the appears to be on, and I'm just going to keep on blabbing until they take me off. So here we go with a tweet from, quite frankly, trolling Elon, because he's worried about how are we supposed to reach Mars if America goes bankrupt, which Frank says, how who cares about going to Mars? Yeah, maybe some of us need to escape the Earth before we get sucked into impossible levels of debt and kick off World War III. But I don't know. Yeah, it certainly makes a point here. Too many of us have, it's not a problem most of us have to worry about. But Elon's one of the few people that could actually make an exit plan, although I think that would be a one-way trip. I don't know if I like the idea of pioneering, colonizing Mars. Rather wait until that mastered the transportation, the housing over there. Maybe I'll visit someday. But that could be long, assuming our civilization survives. Probably not something we're going to have to worry about in this lifetime. Hello, Maya. I'm not too familiar with Kick. I just stream there. It says I'm on Twitch. I think this is on Kick. Yeah, I do broadcast. I'm an obscure gonzo journalist from born and raised in Minneapolis, St. Paul, to Las Vegas, to Los Angeles. Now I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee. Long story, but all good. Okay, last tweet I will post on this subject. Good old Brendan Dilley saying President Trump basically called Elon Musk a welfare hoe who can go back to Africa if he doesn't want to get his ass audited. So Brendan Dilley is one of the 100% pro-MAGA unwavering support, criticizing anybody stands in Trump's way, whether that be Massie or Rand Paul or anybody. And Elon, even trolling him on his own platform. So here's the post from Donald Trump saying Elon Musk knew he strongly it was against the EV mandate, and it's ridiculous, was always a major part of his campaign. Electric cars are fine, but not everybody should be forced to own one. Elon may get more subsidies than any human being in history by far, and that without them, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back home to South Africa. No more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production, and our country would save a fortune. Perhaps we should have Doge take a good, hard look at this. Big money to be saved. So that's some major fighting words from both, I would say. I mean, Donald Trump, I mean, really taking it to Elon here and using Doge against him after all the work that Elon did, trying to save the government money, going through everything, U.S. exposing so much too, U.S. aid at great personal cost. Whereas dealerships got attacked, businesses, and being run through the ringer, and with death threats and everything else, all the different ways we can only imagine, all the ways they went after Elon, and now it feels like he's being thrown under the bus here. And yeah, it's unfortunate. This is not good for anybody. And now Donald Trump is basically trolling him to use Doge against him, against all of his subsidies for all of his companies. That U.S. would save money. So that's a big deal. That's where things are escalating to a pretty strong degree. So we'll see. Hello, Maya. Do I stream daily? My schedule's pretty loose to some degree. I usually go Tuesday, Thursday, 4 o'clock. Maybe 90-minute shows. Nothing set in stone. I would say this is probably more for, I wouldn't say it's so much for profession, although I've been doing it for a long time. It's something that I feel compelled to do. It's probably more of an activism thing than it is me as a self-promoter. And the independent news is... there's not a lot of opportunities, unfortunately. So I just do what I can. But this is more of activism. It's a longer story. But I do enjoy covering the news and just trying to be a different voice, offering a different perspective on the news cycle, philosophy, politics, all that good stuff, and whatever else I find interesting. And then we'll see what happens. But yes, I've actually been doing this quite a while, although this is a new sort of endeavor. I'm firing up an old show that I did from 2012 to 2014, the Eccentric Perspective, back when I was on Blog Talk Network. Way back in the day. But yeah, I've been active in the alternative media, probably more of a casual thing, but regular, consistent, but not tons of content. Anywho, but go ahead, Maya. Go ahead and ask me one thing, although, well, depending on what it is or how personal it is, depending on whether I will answer it or not, but go ahead. Throw it out there if you'd like. Okay, and then let me find out. Let's get back to my headlines here. So, Trump should deport Elon Musk for getting out of line. No, this is taking it too far. We like Elon, we like Trump, I like Massie, I like a lot of these people, and I don't want to see people I like fighting and getting out of line. Okay, so that'll be the next story. Americans, should they form an entirely new political party? This also seems to be what Elon wants to do as well. Breaking up MAGA, being fiscally responsible. And is it possible? Can they get the logistics to work out? Here's another tweet from Philip Anderson saying we need a new political party, and the only reason most of us vote Republican is because of Donald Trump. The Republican Party doesn't represent any of us, so it's time for a real party. And, there's an interesting point here. And the only reason I vote Republican is because of Donald Trump. The only reason I registered to be a Republican was so I could support Ron Paul in 2012. And that is how I basically officially joined the Republican Party, although I think I'm technically registered independent. I've been registered as libertarian, well, born and raised Democrat, libertarian, independent, Republican. I think that's it. But I kind of vote for whoever I tend to like. And I'm not against the idea they could do a new political party. I don't know if you could divide the Republican base. I think if there's a way to join forces with the common sense left, if you can revive some of those people, if you can bring so many of the voices that used to be on the left back into the left, I think if you could make a good alternative to the Republican Party from the left while getting rid of the old dinosaurs, and the crazed leftists, I think there's something you could do. That would be, I think, an interesting way to go. But it's going to be very difficult. And I don't know if you can get legs that fast on a new party. Although I think that could be a win-win if you could get sort of a grassroots effect, or just if you can get, let's see, well, I guess the left and the sort of the libertarian right to join forces together. You get the Joe Rogans, the Glenn Greenwalds, the Tim Pools, the Jimmy Dores, and who else am I missing? The Russell Brands, kind of the people that have aligned into the MAGA right, and people like me. I don't care. I'm a lifelong liberal, but I don't want nothing to do with the Democrat Party. They're totally nuts. They're unhinged. They're crazy. They're radicalized. So, but Elon also formerly left. There are a lot of those people. The Bill Maher's, maybe even the common sense, like the Jon Stewart. If you can, Jon Stewart. I'm trying to think, but that is possible. So if you get like the JFK, the classic liberals to join with the libertarian right, people like me, if we could get enough of a base together, and then if you could recruit, if people could wake up from the radical left, that's a big ask. So, but that could be a win-win if you had, say, two populist parties. So if you had the MAGA to Trump to Vance Republicans, and then if you could bring in some sort of common sense left, and then you could have two populists competing rather than the dinosaur left, which is, or in the radicalized left, whoever they're going to put up, Kamala Harris or Tim Walz again, AOC, Bernie. They don't have a lot of they don't have a lot of people for people to get excited about. So that wouldn't be such a bad thing if that could be done. And the MAGA right is changed a lot for the better. The neocons are still dying off like dinosaurs. Well, they are the dinosaurs, so they are they're fading away. The Fox News neocons. So that could be interesting, but that's probably, I don't know if that's going to be happen in the next 2 or 4 years, but we shall see. Here's a tweet from Insurrection Barbie saying the only thing third party will do is split the Republican Party in half and give the Democrats a permanent victory. So, and she makes a point here that is not a good thing if you divide the Republicans. If you can somehow split the Democrats, that would be a game changer. Populist left and populist right, if that's possible. Okay, let's see. Maya asking me, why don't I customize my channel? Some cool stuff on it. Like, well, I've got the overlays and the logos, the overlays, got the music, got the background video. What exactly do you need? by my channel yet, but that's on Kick. I don't really know much about Kick. I think Kick is mostly video game streamers, but that's a fair point. I'm gonna have to go look at Kick because I focus most of my attention on YouTube, Rumble, and X. And I suppose I'm on Facebook, and I also streamed at Kick and Twitch and DLive, although it's just mostly just because I can. But I haven't really seen what people are doing customizing that channel. Maybe that's something I should expand on. So thank you for that. I will have to take a closer look at Kick, customize my channel. If that does well, we shall see. Yeah. Well, I get a lot of that. There's people from Kick and from Rumble that will offer things at cost. We shall see. If I get some more money rolling, and I'm definitely going to try to hire somebody to do some social media stuff for me. I don't really like promoting myself much, so if I don't get on a network, I'm going to struggle. So perhaps that would be something if I could find people to make video content, stuff like that. But story for another day. We shall see. If it was volunteering, would be good. But it's the first time I've seen Maya. Yeah, that would be cool. Volunteers, some interns. I don't know. Sometimes I really don't know if I really even want to do that. Like this is again, this is sort of like activism, and I don't really know what else to do with it as far as monetizing it and promoting it and all of that stuff. But perhaps a story for another day as I try to take things to the next level. I don't know. All right, let's move back to the headlines. Americans should form an entirely new political party. I would say I think that's a good idea. I think they've got to test it. You don't want to split up the Republican base, though. You have to split up the left-wing base. And then I think it's doable. But anyway, that's my view on that at this time. If not, I think Elon is going to be wasting a ton of money trying to change things he's got no control over. I don't know if it's going to be that popular, but a lot of that's going to depend on the success of Trump in this next year before the next election. And of course, this is going to be his last term no matter what, and they've got to set something else up for 2028. That should be very interesting, as it's J.D. Vance or Ron DeSantis, and whatever the left one pulls up. But if somehow Elon and all the common sense liberal left can gather and form a new party, then that could be an absolute game changer. And we could end up with good people on both sides. But we'll see how things unfold over the years to come. Let's move on to the next topic. Alligator Alcatraz. Should it be shut down before it opens? And of course, there's going to be protests on that. Here it is. Protesters outraged as Trump expected to visit Alligator Alcatraz in Florida. America has the best alligators in the world. Big, beautiful alligators. Out of Zero Hedge, but on modernity. So, yes, the alligators would be perfect for stopping dangerous illegal immigrants from escaping detention until they can be processed and deported. At least Donald Trump and the Department of Homeland Security think so. Of course, others are not happy about the idea of Alligator Alcatraz being constructed in the middle of Florida's swamplands. So, I guess it's, I don't know. I think it's a cool idea. Yes, it sounds horrific. It sounds a little medieval. Setting up, well, they're not really like moats, are they? It's going to be a big compound with swampland all around it and a bunch of rainforest creatures defending it. I don't know. It's not the kind of climate that I would. It's not really my thing, but that's all good. All right. A lot of people love Florida. I'd like to visit. Sounds a little too humid and swampy for me, but maybe I'd love it. Who knows? A lot of people do. All right, so there's an illegal and environmental firestorm around Florida's controversial migrant detention center. It's under construction deep in the Everglades. There's going to be hundreds of National Guard soldiers and miles of snake and alligator infested waters before anybody could possibly reach civilization. Let's make like a game show out of that. Although they are coming out with they're remaking the Running Man. Seems like a terrible idea, which was a great movie back in the I think it was the late 80s when that came out. That was a little bit different plot. But this is like, yeah, all the makings of a new Hollywood movie. So, escaping, yeah, those are always popular movies. Escaping from prison. This one has a special twist. So you gotta give them credit for the originality on this one. But not everybody finds that. What's the deal with these ads here? Okay, not everybody's pleased. Not everybody shares the same sense of humor with Trump and anybody else. As the Alligator Alcatraz. Here it is from Homeland Security. There's going to be, there they are. Well, what do you know? So there will be some very dangerous criminal aliens that get processed through here. That's from Ron DeSantis. And he says if somebody would be able to get out, where are you going to go? You got about 50 miles to get anywhere. So it's about as secure as it gets. And it'll cost $450 million a year to operate and will be reimbursed by FEMA. So it's going to open. There's not much anybody can do about it. They will protest. But yes, I guess this is only going to be used for certain people, like maybe the most violent of all. I think it only holds about 5,000 inmates. So when we have like 20 million people that are here illegally, it's only a small portion. And just, I guess, maybe temporarily, I don't know so how long people will actually be there, but maybe it's that. And it's an incentive, a negative one to encourage people to leave the country, which is going to be a hot topic because they've got a major project underway. How are you going to get rid of 20 million some illegal aliens that are here? So here's a tweet here from Kristi Noem here and Donald Trump.
People don't have to come here. If they self-deport and go home, they can come back legally. We will let them come back legally.
And there is a lot of self-deportation.
Yes. But if you wait and we bring you to this facility, you don't ever get to come back to America. You don't get the chance to come back and be an American again and work here.
Okay, so this kind of gets into the headline of the story, or I guess part of the other thumbnail. So logistics of deportation, transportation. In fact, let's see if I'm going to look at some of the data. A friend of mine sent me on how many buses and planes would it take or would need to leave the United States in order to deport 20 million people before the next presidential election. So in the 4-year time frame, or actually right now it's only 3 years and 4 months, 24 hours a day, 20 million people, between trying to figure out buses and planes, because if buses can carry 50 passengers and planes can carry 200 passengers, but to get 20 million people out in 4 years would be something like 678 people per hour. I'm trying to think. You'd have to have 14 buses per hour, 4 planes per hour. The logistical challenges of identification, detention, legal processing, and coordination with receiving countries. Economic impact, historical precedent. You would need approximately 14 buses and 4 planes to depart every hour for the next 3 years and 4 months, with all the unprecedented logistical, financial, and diplomatic efforts in order to remove 20 million people, which, is going to be quite a project. But we're struggling here because now, all these sanctuary cities are fighting hard. They're throwing all these protests, and they're trying to unmask ICE and try to fight for these people to stay in the country. Most of them they don't know, but they just want to fight anyway. A lot of it's just paid protesters, and they could be future Democrat voters, which is one of the reasons they want to keep them here. It's a lot to it. But yeah, you got to think about the incentivization here. And in fact, just a quick note before I get to the incentivizing. Also, an interesting note is that AOC under investigation for hiring an illegal alien staffer and has been blasted for wrongly teaching migrants how to avoid prosecution. So she could be in big trouble, and she's been somebody who's fighting very hard for these illegal aliens, and you're wondering why, because they're the only people that's the only people that would vote for somebody like her. So if they can keep the gravy train rolling. And now she's trying to teach them how to avoid prosecution. And meanwhile, she's also hired one. So not a good thing. But I asked a question. And I wrote down, I was thinking about this because a friend of mine wanted me to talk about this one. The logistics of deportation. Transportation is, and I was kind of thinking, there's got to be something they do to incentivize. What are they actually doing? Because there's no way you're going to get all that many people on all the buses and planes and get them out of here. You're probably not going to have them walk across the desert again like they did on the way in. So it's not easy. And then when you're factoring in, like, they're supposed to get due process, even though they're here illegally, on a case-by-case basis, it's going to back up the court system for 20 years. I mean, it's almost impossible. People are frustrated that there's not enough deportations happening, but there's too many obstacles. The leftists are fighting it. They're fighting ICE, and I don't know, and they're calling for due process for everybody. So how do you make this happen? So I guess they're going to have to incentivize people. So I was thinking, like a deadline to cut off benefits or increase potential punishments. There should be like a method to appeal. Or maybe we take a look at maybe keeping some of them. Especially some of them that have been around, they have a good track record, upstanding citizens, have lots of valid referrals, maybe proficient. They have proficiencies in understanding our culture or our language. Maybe there's something that could be done. I know Trump has also talked about protecting some of the ones that are involved in agriculture, hospitality, construction, the proven commodities. I don't know. So that kind of cuts off some of the load. But then I asked Grok to explain further because I wasn't sure if they had something in place. And so Grok, I said, are there any current incentives? So he says the DHS, they do have they're offering $1,000 for people to return to their home country, and it's confirmed. So they use these apps on their phones. So when they entered illegally under the Biden administration, they were like given a phone, they get an app, and they have to kind of sort of be in contact, even though there's going to be 5-6 years before they ever have to have a face a trial or go to court so that they can decide whether they can stay in or not. But they could use this same app, I'm assuming, to get $1,000 payment. So that's one thing they're doing. Maybe they'll have to up the payments. That would be the quickest way around it. I think this is if they can make this happen. Also giving them free transportation. So travel assistance covers the cost of commercial flights or other travel arrangements to facilitate the illegal to return to their home country or another country where they have lawful status. This is estimated to reduce deportation costs by approximately 70%. So they're saying it costs $17,000 per person to deport them. But if you can just cover the cost of their flights, make it nice and easy so they don't tie up the process, or you don't force ICE to go and apprehend people. If they did it voluntarily, that saves a lot of money. And DHS can also waive civil fines and penalties, because some of it was excessive. I mean, you're not going to fine somebody $1,000 per day. They don't have that much money. Deportation for detention. Individuals who register their intent to self-deport through the app are deprioritized for arrest and detention while they make arrangements to leave, provided they show progress toward departure. So that is another thing. So they can prevent getting arrested. They can get $1,000. They can get free travel. So I don't know. So maybe they have to keep amping this up, because then the leftists can't stop them. You don't need to unmask ICE. You don't need to have a big protest fighting for illegal aliens, because they'll want it. They'll be like, "Hey, this is a good idea. Take the money, and maybe if you cut them off," because I know there's one of the parts of this big beautiful bill. I might be conflating it. Was that? No, I'm already losing my train of thought. Hold on a second. Let me gather myself. Part of the bill was the benefits. Apparently, a lot of these illegal aliens, they get like medical benefits, so they have to shut that off. But maybe you don't do it like immediately, but maybe after you get 6 months, let's say 6 months, 8 months, and then it gets cut off. That's another reason for you to hit the door. So I think that there is a way to keep a lot of the good ones, incentivize many to leave on their own. That cuts the costs, and then the rest, to varying degrees, will be eventually found. And some of the worst ones will be thrown into Alligator Alcatraz. And I guess they have nobody to blame but themselves for ending up there. So, and then maybe if they're good, they'll take some incentives. Maybe we can't keep everybody, but at least maybe they'll be on a list, as Christy Nome has mentioned there, potentially coming back, because they'll already be in the system. I don't know, but it seems that there could be a solution to this. Not doing too much money, and that making everybody happy, and including something where they'll want to leave. It's a shame that this ever happened in the first place, but this is a mess we have to clean up regardless. So I guess they don't really need to give any incentive, because they're already there. I just wasn't aware that they were available, but they actually have them there on the app and everything. So I guess we'll see how this deportation, transportation arrangement, and the logistics. We'll see how that materializes over the next few years. See if that makes a difference. So cool. So now they got the Alcatraz, they got the benefits, the incentivizations. So there is progress on the fronts, although it is gone slower than most had hoped. But there are so many challenges for that, especially when it came to giving due process to everybody, and then the leftist resistance also to ICE was another obstacle that people didn't really know how effective that would be. Okay, well, let's move on. Next story. I guess I just did two, right? Alligator Alcatraz should be shut down before it opens. Nope. Shouldn't have to worry. I think it's only reserved for the most violent people, and just kept as long as they need to be. So I don't think any good. As soon as they start sending good people there, I'll care. But for right now, I think it's reserved for the worst of the worst, and that's what it's intended to be. It only holds 5,000 people. I think it's kind of a fun novelty. So let's just keep it and leave it open. All right, and we need more incentive for deportation, transportation. I think it's pretty solid right now. $1,000 isn't a lot, but I think that's fair. They shouldn't be here to begin with, but it's trying to find the right balance. And so as they increase incentives and punishments, you'll probably see more people head for the exits. So this could be done. I don't know about 20 million in 4 years, but could we get half? And maybe we'll want to keep a whole bunch. I don't know. There's a lot of good talent there too. We wouldn't want to send it all out the door. I wouldn't think, but then they're going to have to go through a process. They can't get voting rights for 10 years or something like that. But this is something we can work. There's a deal to be made here. A happy medium for everybody involved, I do think. So I'll be optimistic on that front. Okay, next story. Bob Vylan deserved to have his visa revoked for slurs. This will be a quick one. This is making the rounds all weekend. Police launching a criminal investigation into Glastonbury Festival hate speech. Says in reality, Glastonbury is a carnival of conformity. The bigger concern is the weaponization of the so-called hate speech. So police in the United Kingdom have announced a criminal investigation from Bob Vylan and another band called Kneecap at the Glastonbury Festival. That's because the frontman of this punk duo, Pascal Robinson Foster, led chants of Free Palestine and Death to the IDF, which were broadcast live by the BBC. And this other band was chanting Free Palestine, which seems pretty harmless to me. Some people stretch that and say that means genocide against the people of Israel, but I don't think that's true in this case. But chanting death for the IDF is in poor taste. That was not a good move, although people are very upset. The people that see the reality of the situation that is happening in Gaza should be disgusted, but that doesn't mean you go calling for death. But I mean, this was a music festival, performance, and when these performers they get in the mood and they start talking and they start chanting, and then Free Palestine is a very common. I was in Chicago and Milwaukee last year for the conventions. I've heard it quite a bit. I've heard it at all the campus protests. I've heard it on TV. I know what it is. It doesn't sound too offensive. Saying again, death to the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, is, though, to be fair, over the top. So let's see. Where do I have the video? Let's see if I can play it here.
The Prime Minister has tonight.
Or not. Just get to the.
The BBC had decided not to live stream the Northern Irish band Kneecap, but no such preemptive action against the...
Okay, but anyway. So he was yelling during the performance, and now they want to go after him. Where did I find this? So he's under criminal investigation by the UK police for following incitement against Israelis at the Glastonbury. And then they've also had their visa revoked. So, the British Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, told MPs that she called the BBC's Director General after the set was broadcast, demanding to know why the feed wasn't immediately cut and why it was broadcast live, given the concerns regarding other acts in the weeks preceding the festival. So, but that seems like blatant censorship to me. Now, I'm not defending what this person said, but I don't think he was actually calling anyone specific for death. It was just something you chanted while in the moment, as people are standing up for what they see as a genocide happening in Gaza. They're seeing tens of thousands of innocent people that have been slaughtered there over the last year and a half or so, since 10/7, which was a terrible attack. But now Israel very heavy-handedly has laid waste to Gaza with many innocent people as collateral damage, as they have not done a very good job of minimizing civilian casualties, sparking outrage. And now they're calling for, going after people's freedom of speech, like all this anti-Semitic stuff, which some of it seems to be exaggerated. Let's take a look at a couple of Glenn Greenwald tweets. Glenn Greenwald saying this is why we're seeing more extreme censorship imposed against Israel opponents, criminally investigating a band, deporting Israel critics, expanded U.S. campus hate speech codes, more U.S. laws outlawing BDS, says censors get more desperate when losing control of public opinion. So, yeah, I disagree with what the guy said, but then having him criminally investigated and then revoking his visa to come to the United States seems too much, especially for this country, which believes in freedom of speech. Maybe that'll fly over there in England and parts of Europe. I understand that, but can the guy at least be able to explain himself? So can he say, hey, I was just in the moment. I shouldn't have said that. That was in poor taste. We don't want to see the atrocities in Palestine, and we'd like it to stop. That would be cool. Or something. But that's not what we're seeing. So we're going to place the chill factor on people for speaking out. I thought I had another tweet from Greenwald, but maybe I must have tossed it. All right. But I think that's the consensus that I am seeing, but I could be wrong. Yeah, so the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau wrote, "To glorify violence and hatred are not welcome visitors to our country." So, yes, as the cancellation of the visas probably serves Bob Vylan right, but pointing out that a genuine commitment to free speech should require a threshold higher than what these morons have been accused of to attract criminal sanctions. So, anyways, but yeah, they're pretty heavy-handed over there in England for this stuff. They're getting a bit sensitive. That sets a bad precedent. So, anyway, don't like what he said, but he should be allowed to say it, and they shouldn't revoke his visa for saying it. But they should, give him a hard time. They should absolutely call him to task on that. And if the media wants to talk to him before he takes the stage, that's another thing. And if he's not sorry, then revoke his visa. I don't know. I think that should have been handled differently, and I don't want to see that happen, regardless of what was said. So people should be allowed to say things in poor taste and then be able to apologize or to expand on it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. So, and not go too heavy-handed with losing control of public opinion. So now you're going to shut down freedom of speech, and now they want to shut down the live stream for even daring to say such a thing. Seen much worse, much worse. But anyhow, let's move on. A couple more quick stories. How about CDC? Should they be forgiven for covering up medical data? I guess this is the one I'm more concerned about getting this channel and this video shut down for. We shall see, but I got to let it rip, and this is a big story. So, RFK, our new health secretary here, says the CDC covered up an internal study which found a 1,135% increase in autism risk from the hepatitis B jab. So people are quite outraged, especially parents of autistic children who have been told for years that there was nothing to worry about. These jabs were perfectly safe and effective, and that anybody talking about links to autism was a dangerous conspiracy theorist. But now that RFK is involved, who has been a vaccine skeptic, and is now is got access to the internals. You can dig in and see what's in the data, and find these little these tidbits here, finding these things that they didn't want people to see. And has actually spoken very publicly, brought this up on Tucker, which we can run some video clips here. Here's another one, SGT report. These also not happening. These demonic assholes gave our son autism. May they all rot in hell for their crimes against children. The conspiracy theorists were right again. And here is a big article here on the Vigilant Fox with RFK Jr. unloading disturbing vaccine secrets on Tucker and surprises everybody on Trump. So, it's a great article to send out. I actually found this in a few different publications. And it's a great interview. And this is going to change everything. Yeah, for many years, you were called horrible things. For scaring parents. For saying, hey, do we really need all these jabs? Do you really need to hit my kid with all of these vaccines? Is it really all necessary? And why are we seeing the rates of autism spike so egregiously over these last couple of decades? What is the link? How do we make sense of the data? The one thing they would tell you that was, we don't know what the cause is, but it's definitely not the vaccines. But now we're hearing the exact opposite. And this is just one. As far as I know, this is just one study on one vaccine. So if this one can cause it, then I'm sure that we can make a connection with some of the other ones. Not to deter anybody, to encourage people to do their own research, but they didn't want people to do their own research before. I've had so many of these videos taken down in the past because of medical misinformation. In fact, I've lost one of my channels too. So we'll see if they calm down now that we have a new sheriff in town. with Mr. Kennedy here. So it's not every day that an active HHS secretary sits down for a 90-minute chat with Tucker Carlson and talked about the CDC corruption. And there was a study, and it was 25 years ago. It showed the autism risk from the hepatitis B vaccine. So they covered it up when they found out. So they got rid of all the older children that were in the study and replaced them with younger children because they were too young to be diagnosed with autism. So they just made it disappear. Meanwhile, they're still giving those vaccines to the public. And who knows how many kids got autism because they believed the CDC and the medical community wouldn't lie to them. It wouldn't mislead them. But what it turns out, this is going to horrify you, is that RFK explained the real reason your pediatrician will get mad at you for refusing vaccines and for calling you a crazy anti-vaxxer. There's a published article out there that now says 50% of revenues to most pediatricians. So 50% of all the money they make comes from vaccines. So they actually have a very, very direct incentive. This is like sales. This is your commissions right here. Imagine if it's like me being a bartender. Half my money's in tips. Right? When I was a bartender in Vegas, maybe half of my money came from tips. Without it, in Vegas it would have been okay, but for most people, you wouldn't have enough to survive. So imagine getting 50. So that's a lot of money. So you have direct incentive to give children vaccines, and maybe I'm not saying all of them are knew that there was a link here, that they were putting their patients at risk. They might have done so inadvertently, but they have absolutely every incentive to make this happen and to get your kids to take as many vaccines as possible. But this has allowed a serious medical epidemic, as we have so many kids now these days coming down with autism. And this was one of the main reasons RFK wanted to take over, so we could get in and get to the bottom of this mystery once and for all. And it looks like he just made a major breakthrough.
There's a published article out there now that says that 50% of revenues to most pediatricians come from vaccines. And then there's a whole structure where Blue Cross and the other insurance companies pay bonuses to the pediatrician to make sure, if, for example, 95% of if their clients are fully vaccinated, they get huge bonuses. It could be tens of thousands of dollars. And that's why your pediatrician, if you say, I want to go slow on the vaccines, or I want to have a little different schedule, your pediatrician will throw you out of his practice because you're now jeopardizing that bonus structure. And these are all perverse incentives that stop doctors from actually practicing medicine and caring for the client because they're looking at the bottom line.
Yeah, not good. Especially if you got like tons of medical school debt to pay off. So that's just gruesome. It's a very greedy, cutthroat industry. And it's ended up hurting people. It's the whole medical, it's supposed to help humanity. And instead, it's hurting humanity so that they can make money. At least that's the way at least that's the way it turned out to be, unfortunately. So the vaccine corruption didn't end there. Kennedy tested, the CDC killed off the vaccine injury reporting system that actually worked because it worked too well. They found that 1 in 37 vaccines caused an injury, which was confirmed. That's pretty alarming as well. I mean, yeah, you could say that the vaccines are necessary. They're a good thing for humanity and health, but do we force them on people? And what happens when something goes wrong? We just continue to let people get hurt? We don't want to. We sue the companies, and then they go out of business, and then there aren't any vaccines anymore. Like, where do we find the balance here? But we do know that there's a lot of testing that's required, and that we didn't see a lot of that with the COVID one. There's a lot of people that are in that study as well. There's going to be major problems with that, and we're only beginning to see some of the data because it's so new. Saying one vaccinated person died of COVID, 2 placebo recipients died. They said that was 100% effective. But over the next 6 months, they had 21 vaccinated participants die compared to 17 in the placebo group, a 23.5% higher death rate. So, anyhow, this is going to be a painful realization for a lot of people. That, trust the medical community, trust the CDC, the WHO. Called Kennedy and so many people kooky conspiracy theorists. Warned, yes, demonized all the anti-vaxxers, and it turns out they were wrong. So, anyway, I think that's all I'm going to put on that one. I'll post this on Twitter. You guys can go check it out. Well, you guys can go find it. The Vigilant Fox, pretty prominent on Twitter. And we'll be seeing a lot more of that. So this is, I guess, the good news for the day. Turning the corner on this medical mystery. And yes, RFK says officials revolutionizing the vaccine injury compensation program. So he's doing a lot of great work right now. Yeah, we're disappointed we're not seeing all of the Epstein files and so many other things. Been some setbacks, a lot of infighting, a lot of things to work out. It's been a tumultuous month, but there is some good news there. Okay, well, let's switch it from this medical mystery to a new medical mystery. The last story I've got on the day. Well, it's going to be a quick one. ChatGPT. Could it lead us to an epidemic of AI-induced psychosis? So here we go. This is the new phenomenon. Just hearing about over the last week. People are getting really hooked on this ChatGPT. I really like Grok, but I guess I haven't gone into that many late night deep dives. But some people are, and they're finding that this AI is pretty agreeable, and it'll confirm a lot of the things you want to believe. It won't challenge you too much. Won't try to debate you and push your buttons and challenge you too much. So people are getting told what they want to hear to the extreme, and it's causing them to get to go off the rails, I suppose. So it's a disturbing trend showing stable individuals developing severe psychosis from ChatGPT obsession, and it's leading to hospitalizations and violent incidents. So Stanford researchers found the AI chatbots reinforce delusions instead of directing users to professional help. So if you have like a mental illness and you're talking to the AI chatbot, it can lead you in some weird directions. It's probably good to have a good human, somebody who's more grounded and has more experience with that sort of thing, rather than figuring out the AI chatbot as it's all developing in real time. So one man spiraled into madness after 12 weeks of ChatGPT use, believing he unlocked sentient AI before being involuntarily committed. Another user thought he could speak backwards through time to save the world during a 10-day psychotic break. ChatGPT has also given dangerous advice, including validating suicidal thoughts and delusions, while tech companies fail to address the harm. Well, I think it's all kind of new, kind of learning as we go. I never heard of any of this until like just recently, like this week. I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. This has been a breakthrough. You see the dangers with this stuff taking over, and perhaps in a way kind of dumbing people down to be too dependent on AI. But they're actually getting diluted and committed over this. This is, I had no idea. So a disturbing new trend sweeping the nation. Stable individuals with no history of mental illness are suffering severe psychotic breaks after becoming obsessed with the ChatGPT, leading to involuntary psychiatric commitments, arrests, and even violent confrontations with law enforcement. These users are gripped by messianic delusions and believe they've created sentient AI or are destined to save the world, with the chatbot's sycophantic responses reinforcing their dangerous detachment from reality. So that's a hell of a sentence. They start thinking that there's some kind of a god, and they're going to save the world or speak backwards through time. And the chatbot will not say, "Hey, let's stay grounded here, buddy." It might reinforce your delusions and make you detached from reality. So, isn't that interesting? That's a side effect I didn't quite see coming, but it's here, and I'm sure it's only going to get worse as our civilization unravels. But I'm here for it. So get your popcorn ready. This is going to be interesting. A new era, the AI era, before it takes over. Yeah, wait, this is new. This is just all happening now. So I wonder what it's going to be like in another couple of years. So should be very interesting. Well, anyway, that's all I've got for today. I think I'm already over my time. I'm already 97. I'm already 7 minutes over. So, oh well. But, okay. Well, a lot of interesting stuff to cover. A lot of headlines. Is that the last one? Yeah. Okay, so should CDC, should they be forgiven for covering up medical data? Absolutely not. Heads need to roll for this. I mean, not individual punishments, but it's time to face reality and have a real talk about the actual efficacy of vaccines and how we're going to do this going forward into the future. It's also a look at, why are these doctors being incentivized with vaccines? There's no way they should be incentivized for handing these things out. You do it because people need it. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it. If people want to get them, do it. If you think you're going to be at risk of something, I wish they were more effective than they actually were. But there seems to be more side effects and more risks sometimes than perhaps they are worth. But everybody should do their own research. So I don't know what to tell you. Not saying don't do it, but you should find out if your doctors are making money off of it. And is it best for you and your kid, or is it best for them and their pocketbook? So, anyway, it's a painful. It's going to be a painful conversation for a lot of people, but it's here, and there's going to be a lot of outrage. So, if they were involved in a cover-up. And we have who knows how many tens of thousands of autistic kids running around that have had their lives stolen by the medical community so that they could make money and prevent themselves from getting sued. I mean, this is kind of what they did. This is the risk they took by covering up the study. So anyway, we'll see how that plays out. So interesting news day. that's all I've got. We'll be back tonight for the Toxically Masculine Tuesday with Mike Barra and Dr. Brooks Agnew. Hopefully, Trail Boss Steve Doran. He's been was off last week, so hopefully he'll be back. But that'll be on 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The best round table on the internet. So check that one out from Mike Barra. And that's all I've got for tonight. I'll be back on Thursday, I guess 4 o'clock, the usual time, and we'll see what crazy stories are in the news that day. But that's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe. And we'll do it all again next time. But for now, I am out.